Donald Trump's executive order is going to be null and void. Undocumented people, if you're born here, you're going to get your citizenship. You got to have a good faith argument for doing it. They don't. They want to do it for ethnic cleansing.
All this emotional ethnic cleansing stuff you're talking about makes no sense because what Donald Trump is doing is within the law.
It's not within the law. It's not within the law. It's not within the law. We're back to discuss this birthright citizenship. And I'm telling you guys right now, Trump is going to go down. He's not going to do it. He's not going to make it. He's trying to change the Constitution by executive order. That's not happening. Who's going to let a president change the Constitution by an executive order? Huh? This is all part of their, hey, we're going to let the president do whatever he wants. He has all power. He controls all branches of government because he's executive branch. No, that's not how it is, right? It's three co-equal branches of government, and the judicial branch is coming down on them. Right? We got the lower federal courts coming down saying, hey, yo, listen, this whole birthright citizenship is established law. The lower courts trying to check and balance Trump is saying, hey, this isn't constitutional. The 14th Amendment, giving birthright citizenship to people who are born here, is established law. This has been going on for almost 100 years, over 100 years now. But if something's been in practice for so long and no one's been challenging it, what's the motive for this administration to be challenging it? Why are they doing it now?
Imagine this. The United States has 360 million people. You let 20 million people, you know what that does to the population? Especially if they're allowed to have kids and that get automatic citizenship. That's insane.
So I'll admit, on the last video, when we were talking about birthright citizenship, you had an argument that was strong. I'll be honest, it was a strong argument. Okay. You know, I think there is some doubt on the clarity of the 14th Amendment when it comes to undocumented people having children here and those children being born here and those children becoming a citizen and having those rights of a citizen. Strong argument. But I think there's a decent counter argument that I think that whoever's going to be pleading these cases in oral argument to the Supreme Court probably bring this up as precedent. All right, so let's go to that Reason article. So within this article, there's a study done by law professor Amanda Frost from the University of Virginia School of Law and her law student, Emily Eason. And what they point out in this article really quickly is that the conspicuous lack of any effort to enforce a more restrictive understanding of birthright citizenship after the 14th Amendment was adopted. Specifically, they note that no one sought to challenge the citizenship of any member of Congress on the grounds that they lacked citizenship and were they thus ineligible to serve. Multiple members of Congress during this period were born to individuals who were neither citizens nor the equivalent of a lawful permanent resident. So we have people, in other words, who were born of undocumented illegal immigrants, born here, that then became congressmen and was never challenged because it's been established law. Their citizenship was never challenged, even though they come of parents who were undocumented, quote unquote, illegal immigrants. The Supreme Court is going to rule on that precedent. Donald Trump's executive order is going to be null and void. Undocumented people, if you're born here, you're going to get your citizenship. A couple years after the Dred Scott ruling, there was a congressman, a black congressman in Mississippi named Hiram Rhodes Revel. He was the first black congressman. His citizenship was challenged by the Democrats at the time. He was black, so of course. And they lost that. Let me go back and say, in terms of the qualifications of these congressmen. So there are hundreds of challenges to the qualifications of members of Congress have been filed over the years on all sorts of grounds, spiking in the years around the ratification of the 14th Amendment, just around that time. A time of furious partisan division between just 1865 and 1871. The qualifications of 18 senators were contested. 18 senators were contested, yet there was but one challenge to a senator's qualification involving citizenship in those years. That was the black congressman I was talking about. Those arguments failed. No one thought to challenge any other member on the grounds that they were born to parents who were not citizens and who had not, under the law in place at the time, filed a declaration of intent to be naturalized. There's one more part of this article that I want to highlight. Scroll up just a bit. Using a variety of archival sources, we have researched the ancestry of all 584 members of the 39th Congress, which is 1865 to 1867, the 40th, which is from 1867 to 1869, and the 41st, which is from 1869 to 1871 Congresses, and found that more than a dozen whose citizenship would be suspect under President Trump's interpretation of the Citizen Clause, yet no one questioned these members' citizenship despite the contentious political environment that inspired frequent qualification challenges on a variety of other grounds. This dog that didn't bark provides further evidence that the Trump administration's novel interpretation of the Citizenship Clause is inconsistent with the original understanding. They understood it as law even back then, that once you were born here, you are a citizen. That is precedent that an executive order cannot overcome.
We didn't have to worry about a bunch of people who were here who didn't belong here having kids. The time has changed. So since time has changed, we might have to look at the Constitution, look at the laws and say, hey, do we have to make a tweak here? Do we have to go in here and ratify, reiterate, do certain things so that the laws fit within the times that we currently live in? What this law was made for, what this amendment was made for. You have the 13th Amendment, right? That's where they went and abolished slavery. Then you have the 14th Amendment, where they said, you know what? We have to give the people who were enslaved, have to give them some sort of rights in this country. Rights to citizenship. That's why that law was written. It wasn't written for a bunch of other people who are here illegally and having these kids and their kids become citizens. It was written specifically for enslaved black people who were here on this land to have rights. But another thing that was going on during that time that a lot of people don't talk about, right? After the North won the Civil War, Congress that controlled the country only came from the people from the north of the country. They said if the South want to have any influence on what's going on in this country, they have to abide by certain things that we're trying to do in this country. So they pretty much strong-armed the people from the South into birthright citizenship. They said you cannot have a part in this Congress if you don't agree to these certain terms. That's what happened.
So these lower court judges are saying, hey, this is established law. This is the Constitution. No, I'm putting an injunction on you, a nationwide injunction on your ass, because you can't take citizenship away from people who were born here. If you want to do that, you got to go through Congress. He's trying to do it by a stroke of a pen, sitting at his desk. It's lazy. You got to plead your case to Congress, who represent the people, and say, hey, I want to change this law. You got to have a good faith argument for doing it. They don't. They want to do it for ethnic cleansing and to protect the white dominant group in America. They can't go to court and say that. That's why they're trying to do an executive order.
All this emotional ethnic cleansing stuff you're talking about makes no sense, because what Donald Trump is doing is within the law. And it makes sense for the United States of America. It's time. Let's clean this up.
It's not within the law. It's not within the law. It's not within the law. If it was within the law, those lower courts would never ruled against them. It wasn't, and it would never been a nationwide injunction against it. It's not within the law. Nothing Trump and the administration does is within the law. Children being born to undocumented immigrants and then working their way all the way up to being a congressman, and it was never challenged. And because it was never challenged, it was precedent for established and understood law. I think that's going to be argued in front of the Supreme Court.
Immigration in America has become a real soap opera. I think it is time to do something with immigration. I think it's time to give real Americans a fair chance in this country. There's people who've been in this country who have ancestors have gone through a lot to build the country, both black and white. And I think it's time for people to get their fair share in this country. Allow these people to have first access to jobs, have first access to grants, have first access to all of the fruit that America have to offer, that people came to this country back in the day and died for this country. Give their kids the chance. Give their kids the chance to fly. That's all I got to say.